Hello and welcome to the Quadcast. I'm the founder and host, John McAlevey. This podcast, while mainly for and about folks like me who have had their lives affected by a spinal cord injury, is really for anyone who just wants to be inspired. In this space, I speak with individuals who have had life-changing injuries and accidents, and yet in spite of insurmountable odds in many cases, have gone on to do amazing things with those lives. I'm reminded of the old metaphor that when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Well, my guests, they take those lemons and roll right over them with their wheelchairs and rollators on their journey. I'd like to thank you for lending me your ears for another session of OT and PT for the soul. So, what do you say we get this show on the road? And welcome to the Quadcast, Matt and Jen Hellstern.
Hi, John. Thanks for having us.
I tell you, this is my second group of folks that have been suggestions from the great Tracy Iraka. I had a chance to meet Tracy way back when at Kessler, and I told her, you're going to have to be my chief booker now, because she set me up with Steve Zuddy, I spoke with a couple weeks back, who's a wonderful guy, and now I have the Hellsterns joining me today. And so what I like to usually do with my shows is begin at the beginning. And so, Matt, if you could, why don't you tell us, where did you grow up, and what were some things that you were interested in your youth?
Matt Hellstern. So I grew up in New Jersey in Scotch Plains. I have two sisters. My parents are still with us. I went to school in Scotch Plains, and when I was younger, I had a group of friends that kind of still know them to this day, right? And we're people are friends that long, right? We too much, right? So we keep each other on our toes, right?
They know where all the bodies are buried, right, Matt?
They do.
That's great. Well, I grew up in Millburn, Short Hills, so we're neighbors.
Yeah, I used to work in Short Hills at a deli, Zappia's Deli. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we used to go over there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. And how about Jen? How about yourself? Where did you grow up, and what was your youth like?
Sure. So I grew up actually in the town we now live in, which was much more rural at the time, central New Jersey in Monroe.
Okay.
And I have a sister and two wonderful parents I'm sure we'll chat about today. And I was kind of a theater kid. I danced, I did shows. So that was kind of always what was really important to me.
Mm-hmm. How about Matt? Tell us, where did you go to college and what did you study?
Oh, I went to Penn State University for my undergrad and studied business logistics and international business. And then I was working for a few years, and then I went to school in the evenings for my master's of business at Drexel University.
You mentioned Penn State. Were you at school when Adam Taliaferro was there and was injured?
Yeah, I was.
Wow. I had him on my first season, and he's gone on to do remarkable things. Speaking of spinal cord injuries, right?
Absolutely. He was actually, my first day I went to McGee outpatient, he happened to come in and stand right next to me, and I looked down and I saw the Penn State tattoo on his ankle, and I was like, no way. I was like, oh my God, it's him.
We are, right? Isn't that your big thing?
It is.
We are. Oh, what a small world. My goodness, how these things come together. How about take us through a day in the life of a pharmaceuticals operation executive? That's a real mouthful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's my job is I can make it sound simple, right? So my job is we want to make sure that our patients, right? We sell generic medicines. We want to make sure that patients are getting all the access to the medicines that they need, right? And so when a person goes to a pharmacy to get their bottle of medicine or whatever it is, there's an enormous amount of people and effort that go into making sure that bottle or that container gets that medicine to them in a safe, and gets them there safely as well as reliably, that they can count on their medicine. So that's part of the job, is making sure that medicine gets there safely and reliably.
Okay. And now how about, tell us, Jen, how did you and Matt meet? And if you could, please tell us about your family.
Sure. So Matt and I met online. We were both working full time and in school at night. So we did not have a lot of free time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much our first couple of years of dating was study dates, because we didn't have much else to talk about or time. So we Matt was in business school at night, and I was in law school. So we were very committed to our careers. You know, we met in our late 20s, early 30s. So we
Hmm.
were kind of established as professionals. We got married a little bit later. And shortly thereafter, had two lovely daughters, Hannah and Abby, who are now, they just had birth, forgive me, they were in the middle of birthday season. So one just turned 11 and the other's about to turn 13.
Wow.
So, yes. So wish us luck. About to have two
I'm sure they keep you on your toes.
that they do, that they do.
Uh, that's great. Well, that's a nice family story. And how about Matt? Now, if you could tell us a little bit about the reason why we're here today to talk about not only your spinal cord injury, but the great work that you are doing on behalf of your foundation. So, if you could take us through what brings us here today, how you were injured.
Sure, sure. So I was injured back in 21, May of 2021. So just recently had my 5-year anniversary in a relatively minor car accident. Someone rear-ended me, and you know the impact must have jarred something loose, broken off a piece of bone, a piece of cholesterol, something, and it blocked something that was very important apparently. So over the next 24, 36 hours, right? I wasn't. Um, it did the paralysis did not set in immediately, but it actually came 24 36 hours later. Very unusual. Um,
Hmm.
so 2 days after the accident, I was paralyzed T11, T12, Asia C, right? And so I have been working on coming back from that since then, right? And so we've spent a lot of time in inpatient in Good Shepherd in Philadelphia, and then outpatient started at McGee and got matched up with a great physical therapist, and I've followed him around to all the places he's worked, and now he runs his own clinic. So I still seeing him quite frequently, as frequently as he'll take me. I go.
That's unbelievable. Did you feel any pain after the accident, or was it just sort of an afterthought?
I mean, we had the accident. I pulled into the parking lot next, where I could safely. I got out. I checked the car. Didn't have much of a mark on it. I asked the other guy. I said, "Are you okay?" He said he's fine, and I said, "Okay, let's just go." Right? I was late for a meeting, right? So I had to get into work to get to a meeting, and then
Unbelievable.
yeah, it's it was unbelievable. It's quite unlucky, if you believe in luck, right?
Without question. So, and Jen, when this was all happening, I mean, was your head spinning? I mean, how were you dealing with all of this?
John, it was such a bizarre onset that there was no critical phone call, right? There wasn't a moment where we knew this happened. He didn't tell me about the accident until dinner that night. He said, "Oh, I got rear-ended on the way to work." But it didn't it was inconsequential until 2 days later. He woke up the next day, he ran 5 miles, he always did. And then he called from work 2 days later and said, "I have this terrible pain and I'm having trouble walking." And he drove home, which now knowing what we know now, that probably was not the best,
Not the yeah.
but it just goes to show how it really took a long time for us to realize that this was permanent.
Mm.
It really, it was at least a week of him being admitted before I believed that he was actually paralyzed, because it didn't make sense for something so minor.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
seemingly minor. So the emotional processing, I think, didn't come until much later, to understand. I mean, we always joke back. We tried to rent a ramp for our home because we thought this was just temporary. Like we
Right.
didn't understand. But
Yeah.
so I think the processing for us was very delayed.
Speaking of processing, how did your daughters process all of this?
Uh, they're resilient. Everyone will say children are resilient, but everybody took it their own way. Our oldest started getting
Sure.
migraines. Our youngest became very attached
Hmm.
to things that she could hang on to.
Yeah.
And I remember her saying, "I don't care if daddy can't walk. I just want him to come home." But this was also COVID, right? So the kids couldn't go see,
Uh,
they weren't allowed to go see him.
right.
They wouldn't let any children. We had to be outside if they went to visit him, which just only amped up the uncertainty, the unknowns, because not only do we not really understand what's happening, but we can't even go see him.
Gosh, yeah. I had some friends. I work at Kessler Institute twice a week, and
Mhm.
one of my friends from high school, her son unfortunately was injured in a bicycling accident, and he was admitted like the day after the world shut down with COVID, and they couldn't, as you said, they had to like stand outside of his window. They physically didn't go in there for the 3 months that he was an inpatient, and this was a 16-year-old kid. I mean, his head was spinning, and so
Yeah.
Matt, what was that like? I mean, did you as patients, form like a bond when you were in the therapy room together, and that was become like your family de facto?
No, we were separate, right? We were like, I was physical therapist and occupational therapist that were selected to be paired with me, like similar age, right? So like that was kind of like the people who helped me process, right? But I mean, if you've been through an inpatient, it's
Yeah.
there's so much going on. You don't, I didn't, quite honestly, I didn't understand why I was there, right? I thought I was there to get better.
Hmm.
That's not why you're there, right? You're there to, get safe and, get yourself ready to go home, right? So it was a lot to process, of course. And then Jen said, we're still thinking this is, days, weeks, maybe a couple of months that this is going to happen and then I'll be fine, right?
Right.
But
Why am I here?
yeah,
Yeah, I just visited with a patient within the last 6 weeks or so that walked in for elective surgery, and he's not walking anymore. That something happened, and they say, "Oh, it's going to be, you should, do a quick stint at Kessler or wherever you want to rehab, and everything's going to be okay." And he's like, "Yeah, that was a month ago, and now I'm on this third month, and
Mhm.
there's no telling when you affect your spinal cord. It's something, and I don't know about you. I didn't really know anything about spinal cords really, other than stuff that I slept through in high school. Did on dunch, but yeah, until you find out, you really don't know until you know. We like to say, and so well, I know these injuries take so much from us physically, but what a lot of people don't know is how affect us, not only the patient but the family mentally. And so, Matt, how did you process this? You're laying in the bed in the rehab, and what's sort of going through your head?
a lot, right? I'm sure everyone there's a lot going through your head. There's a lot of adjusting, a lot of unpleasantness, to say the least, about what you're going through and having to having to adjust to. A little bit of what we explained before, a little bit of ignorance, right? Probably helped me, right? Because it was, it's just a matter of time until I get better, right?
Right.
There's no other outcome than getting better.
Hmm.
That that I would accept, but yeah, there's certainly some hard times there. Jen's been fantastic through this whole thing. My sisters have been wonderful. Family's been wonderful, right? So a lot of
Hmm.
people, holding you up at the beginning there, while we're all trying to get our proverbial feet under us, right, and understand what's going on. So yeah, definitely indebted to all the friends and family who helped me through the early part and making sure that I didn't, when the fork in the road came, that I didn't go the wrong direction.
Right. Right. So, Jen, I can definitely understand what Matt's talking about as someone who was in the bed myself. And, I remember when I was in the hospital, there was always a whole bunch of people in the hallway waiting to come in or, wanted to visit. And my parents were out there, my sister, and just the support group behind the scenes. And, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what it's like uh, on sort of the outside looking in. And I know it's different because of COVID, but
Mm.
what, other than the initial shock of, oh my goodness gracious, and we hope that this is going to go away shortly, what is starting to, what are things like back at the ranch, the proverbial ranch, if you will?
I think trying to not let the balls drop, right? Matt and I both, our jobs were really important to us. And that was something that Matt took, I don't know, maybe he took a week off in the hospital, but he continued to work. And we were very lucky to have employers who let us figure it out. So
Hmm.
we're able to stay employed. I was trying to see Matt every day. I was trying to get kids to and from school or camp. Are they in remote school still? Probably, yeah. So we rely so heavily, still 5 years later, on my mom, who lives very close. And I don't. We couldn't have done it without her. I still go to PT with Matt when I can because I always say it's therapy for the whole family. I learn about the injury. I feel like I can see change, or I can understand more. And it just get honestly, if I didn't go to PT with Matt, I don't know when we would really get to see each other.
Right.
So my mom allows that to happen. Matt has had to travel for work, and I've needed to go with him. He's traveled for clinical trials, and all of those things we've been able to do because of many things, but one of them is having the support
Hmm.
to help with the girls and wanting them. It's impossible to not feel torn. I think probably most working parents feel that, but with an injury like this, you really feel torn between, can I be there for my spouse and can I be there for my kids?
Hmm.
Which isn't a choice anyone wants to make, but it was one we were able to.
It takes a village, right? The old axiom. It really does.
Mhm.
It takes so many people to pitch in. And reading in your bio, Matt, I know that you had your journeys included periods of significant progress and then frustrating plateaus, a constant willingness to explore new therapies, technologies, clinical trials, and rehabilitation approaches. So, if you could take us through how you navigate the highs and then you think, like, I can tell you some days I wake up and oh my gosh, I feel like I'm the old me, and then I'll go to bed and can't wait to get up the next morning and it's like, oh god, I can't even hardly get out of bed today.
Yeah.
So I know that those are frustrating for me. I'm sure you've hit some of those walls. Take us through a little bit of the highs and lows if you could.
Yeah, I mean, so so many of the highs and lows, right? Really, the highs. I gotta thank Jen again. Like so many of the highs, she's been behind it, right? With finding the clinical studies or pushing me to do something that I'm hesitant on, or just being one step ahead. Like she's always there, right? So I
Hmm.
participated in 4 clinical trials right now. One of the and we participate in the clinical trials not expecting a cure or that promised progress, right? We do it for the science. We believe in the science. We're if hope that we're feeding into something that progresses towards a cure. um
Hmm.
Certainly something that impacted me or helped me so much was the trial with the C brace, which is um the Autobot product that is the knee ankle foot orthotic with the microprocessor in the knee. And so that was something that had a huge impact, right? That really helped me get on my feet, right? Like, so,
Hmm.
because, my one leg, the strength it hasn't returned to my legs evenly, right? So the one leg, my left leg is a little bit behind the right leg. And so that really helped me get on my feet and really helped me like feel what it was like to be back up and put weight through my body again. So that
Hmm.
was certainly something that was great. We've tried lots of other stuff. The other trials have all involved hypoxia, right? So breathing the low oxygen air and then going into a high intensity physical therapy session. We've seen some returns there. The most recent one that I did was I'm still finishing it actually, right? And we've seen you know I, the science behind it, like actually what caused the change or what caused the improvement, is obviously yet to be confirmed. But I've seen my own improvements. 25% improvement in my walking distance during a 6 minute walk,
Hmm.
2-second improvement in my 10 meter walk. Right. So I've seen some good changes recently. Right. Which is, the reason we keep going 5 years out, we're still seeing the things that you want to see. Right. The improvements. Right. So uh,
Hmm.
we'll try almost anything, right? As long we get the doctor's sign off, we get the PT sign off. If they say it's good, then we give it a go.
It's one of those you'll throw as much what at the wall to see what sticks, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
How do you find out about these clinical trials? Jen, is that something that you're doing some research and looking around?
Absolutely. We were lucky. Matt was independent very quickly, so he did not need support from me in the way of a traditional caretaker, which is good. But also, it's a very helpless feeling, this injury, right? To not know what to do, and not know how to help. And my training is as an advocate. I'm a lawyer, so that is what I knew how to do. And
Mhm.
so when things were not going well, I would jump on clinicaltrials.gov, or I would cold call random biopharma companies, or faculty at Ivy League institutions to see what kind of research that they're doing. And this is, you got bounced from person to person, but I will tell you, John, almost everybody writes you back because most people do this work because they were impacted in some way. One of the principal investigators at Spalding, where Matt is currently doing one trial, his dad had a spinal cord injury. So there's always a personal connection. And for me, that this is how I've coped. Call it an I would say an obsession at some point. Like it's the only way I know how to help. Is to
Hmm.
help find what's the next thing. Maybe it's looking at MS medication, and that's helped in gait training, and have they done research in the SCI world? But it's such an underdeveloped area. There's only so many people with spinal cord injury. There's only so much funding. So and Matt has always said every 1% helps. And that's always guided me, that it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be a cure, but if it helps a little bit, it can help him get to the next step. And he always,
I can tell you things have changed over the, I'm coming up this August 19 will be my 34th anniversary or as they call it up at our place, injureversary. I don't know if you've heard that one before, Matt.
No, not yet.
But, back in the early 90s, I mean, there was really no clamoring for any spinal cord injury stuff. And then soon after my injury, Dennis Bird on the Jets was injured in a football game. And then, of course, Eric LeGrand. I don't know if you've had a chance to meet Eric in your travel around New Jersey, but he has become sort of the face of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. And then, of course, Christopher Reeve. And then, we talk about people that become synonymous with certain things. I remember when Magic Johnson was first diagnosed with HIV, he became the face of that. And of course, money poured in from all over the globe to help, with Magic and to help fight that cause. And for us in the SCI world, it sort of became the same thing when Chris was injured. And, when we lost him, we lost a lot of the momentum that was happening. I know that the foundation is still going strong, but the face of it is gone. And so, like you said, looking around and finding people really don't know much about spinal cord injury. Somebody had recently sent me a photo, and it's an iceberg. And what you see at the top of the iceberg sticking out of the water, it's a little tiny piece, and it says loss of movement. And then underneath that, under the water, you see like 20 different things, from blood pressure issue, bowel issue, bladder issue, skin, trips and falls, and mind things, and just so like all these different things that nobody knows anything about. And so, we like to joke that these SCIs are the gift that keeps on giving, because it's always something, and it's something that people really don't know much about. I actually had another one of my friends was on a recent episode, and he's one of the main doctors at Kessler in the research department, and he's in a power chair, and he had a UTI one day. And he lives in the city, and it got really bad to the point where he kind of didn't know where he was, sort of a thing. I mean, you can get UTIs where you lose, any sense of what's going on. And so he kind of got lost in the New York hospital system. And when he was there, they didn't know what to do with him. He was in the hospital there for 10 days, and he left with like a stage 4 decubitus. He had a so these people don't know anything or what to do with folks with spinal cord injury. And so that's me getting up on my soapbox for the last 2 minutes. But so Matt, if you could, when you're at these trials, tell me, are you there alone? Do you travel to these things? Are they day trips, or how does that sort of work?
Oh no, I'm all in, right? So I relocate. So I've lived in Chicago for about 2 months, maybe 7 weeks, doing a hypoxia study. But when I was in Boston, now I was just there for 6 weeks, right? So yeah, but the Boston one was fantastic. I mean, Chicago was fantastic, but Boston was extra fantastic because they had an apartment that they let you stay at, right? So you didn't have to pay to be there, which was really, really huge. So it was a really nice apartment, close enough to the location, and it's just that extra incentive to come and do the trial. So, but then you're there every day doing the trial.
Wow. And so you're solo.
I'm solo. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, so then you can care for yourself and, shower and get dressed and all of that stuff. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, the apartment is accessible, right? So it is designed for someone with mobility challenges, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you're good from the waist up, right? Your arms, hands, fingers, all of that stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And so you're you're making the rounds. You've been to Chicago, now you're into Boston. It's like you're taking vacations. And Jen, do you get a chance to sneak away and spend some time with Matt?
Yeah, typically, the girls and I will make a point to visit either. It kind of depends on what stage of recovery was met at. So yeah, I mean, gosh, you were at Chicago in the dead of winter. It was like negative 30
Oof.
degrees. It was awful, but we love
Yeah.
Chicago, and they've had some fabulous presented some fabulous opportunities. And Boston, same. We'll go up and spend time.
Hmm.
And, this is where we lean on lots of folks, right? We let the girls' schools know, hey, this is important. This is critical medical care, and they might have to miss school, and I might need to miss work, but we have prioritized recovery as a goal for our family, because Matt gets better, but it makes the quality of life for all of us better. Every small improvement really can improve the quality of life for all of us. So we've always said, this is your job as recovery, but it really is an injury to the whole family.
No doubt. No doubt. And where are you coming from today, Matt?
The basement of my house.
Oh, okay. So you're home. You're not in a trial right now.
No, 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 I'm not. So now I finished the trial 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, right? But now I'm in like the assessments afterwards. So I go back this Friday, and then I
Hmm.
go back again in July.
Hmm. And one thing that I read in the info that you sent over to me, which I think it's a great thing, is that you mentioned how these trials that you're doing may not necessarily benefit you in the here and now, but they can help down the road for folks that come after us that will unfortunately endure spinal cord injury. And I always tell some of my doctors, I say, I kind of think that maybe I was born about 100 to 150 years too soon, before they really have stuff that's going to, affect, like, hey, you go in and we could do this, and you'll be all better again. But I think that's really admirable, and that's part of why you do these things, right? For the folks that come behind us.
Absolutely. And the sea brace that I mentioned, right? I don't know if my study was directly part of this, but that sea brace is a rather expensive piece of equipment. And after that study completed, either Medicaid or Medicare, I forget which is which, started paying for them, right? Like, so they were trying to prove that the device was not an end state device; it was a therapeutic device.
Hmm.
So hopefully we were a part of that, right? Because then help the next, like you said, the next set of folks who need to work their way through this.
Sure, sure. I read here that in July of 2024, you transitioned away from being a full-time wheelchair user. How did that feel? I mean, and all the effort that you put in, and then from the outside looking in, Jen, I want you to follow up with just not only how amazing it was, but how proud of Matt, all the work that he had put in to make that leap.
So just about 3 full years after my injury, I stopped using the wheelchair. I have not used it since. It was a big transition, right? It was one that was, I'd say, it was partly about walking. It was more about freedom, right? It was about being able to get back to more of the things that we used to do. Just a little bit easier to get to places. At least it looks like that on the surface, right? The anxiety inside of me while doing this was a different story, right? Of course, it's a big change, and you're used to a certain amount of stability and security in that wheelchair, right? And when you're up out of it, um, and you have what feels like nothing to protect you, it's a little bit unnerving. But my family was always with me, right? And so I knew I would be fine. So yeah, it was more about the freedom. It was important to me. It's important to the families. It was a huge accomplishment for me, but for Jen, for my PT, for our families, right? All the work that everyone had put in, all the time that they put in, like, it was a huge change that they could see, right? And they knew that it was something that they were a part of. So very important to the whole family, I think.
Yeah. Jen, how about you? Your thoughts?
So it amazing, right? To not have to break down a wheelchair, to not worry about it when we're traveling, all those things, amazing.
Hmm.
But it's so much more than that, John. Like, we celebrate everything, like every little improvement, because if we waited, you said, I've lost track of time. You said July 24. If we waited until then to see improvement, and many folks do, right? Because the goal, I want to walk again, right? That's what we always wanted to know. But if you wait till then, recovery is so slow. You can't, that's not enough to keep you sustained. So
Right.
really, it's been so many hundreds of moments before that, of the first time he could, you know, pull himself up to grab something from an upper cabinet. The first time he could drive, the first time he could take the girls to ice skating without me. So many small things, which are not small because the quality of life improvements are tremendous. And the wheelchair is phenomenal. Our family, our favorite thing to do is to travel. We lived overseas. We love to travel internationally. And when Matt was hurt, I mean, I remember in the hospital saying, "What are we going to do? How do we navigate this?" And we did. We did it with a wheelchair. It's not the same. It's much harder, and it's so much more anxiety. So doing that without a
Hmm.
wheelchair is tremendous. It doesn't mean it's easy. I mean, walking
Right.
is not easy for Matt, even
Hmm.
still, and he continues to make improvements. But you know, it's you've got to celebrate the little things, I think, though, because the wheelchair was a big one that everyone can see, but for us, it was kind of like, okay, that's the next thing. But
I'm hearing your story, and I'm sort of going in reverse for 20, I'd say 29 or 30 of my years being in this game. I walked without any issues. Well, not without any, I mean, you could tell that there was something wrong with me, but I would come and go as I pleased. And now 24 has morphed into 58. And now I'm starting to get old man issues. I have my back is an issue. I've got uh, old football injuries with my knees that are bothering me. So I now out in the community, and when I go to work, I've started using a rollator. And being a C3-4 central cord syndrome, I don't know if you guys know much about what central cord is. It's upper body that doesn't work. So they told me to think of myself as an upside down para, that you'll walk, but you'll have little to no use of your uppers, and I really don't. So for me now to have to break down a rollator and try and lift it, I really can't do this.
mhm,
So now, going places, it's a heck of a lot harder because I got to walk around to the back of the car, which is not easy, and then open the back and try to get this thing out. So it's kind of like I'm navigating a whole world in a different way now.
yeah.
But such is life, as they say, and time waits for no one. So we just, if you want to keep going, you got to keep moving along with what you have. And so I know one constant that we've talked about for these 35 minutes or so has been, the relationship and what great partners and teammates you are. And Matt, if you could, I know, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but if you could sort of sing your praises of your wife here. I mean, I know Jen has been, everybody needs an advocate, and the fact that you have such a great one, you're so lucky in that respect.
I am absolutely the most lucky. I think my older sister I watch a lot of sports. I'm a big sports guy. I think my older sister said it best. She said, "You know what? If we were drafting, I would pick Jen number one overall, right? Like
Mhm.
she's the one that you want, right? She's so kind, so thoughtful. She perseveres through anything, and she is absolutely tenacious, right? Whatever she wants, you better watch out if you're in her way. But she means everything to me, right? She's meant everything to this recovery. Without her, I don't know where I'd be. I don't have the words to describe everything about her that she does for me and this family and everyone else in the world. Like there's not, there isn't another person's problem that comes across her desk or her phone that she doesn't stop and think about and try to figure out how she can help the person who's mentioned whatever their challenge for the day is. So she's just absolutely amazing. I love her. I'm absolutely the luckiest person.
That's so nice. Everybody needs that, and you are so lucky to have Jen in your life. And it reminds me of the old movie A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson, where towards the end of the movie he says, "You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall." And it sounds like you have the right person on that wall, not only for you, but for your daughters and friends and family. And so that's really amazing because a lot of people don't have that. I can recall when I was an inpatient, there was a gentleman who was injured in a motorcycle accident, and he was a high quad. He wasn't going to walk, and he could breathe, but he wasn't going to walk. And he had gotten married probably about 6 months prior to that. And his wife came to visit him and just lost it. She couldn't deal with it. And within a couple of weeks was gone. She left and she couldn't handle it. So this poor guy not only lost, his mobility and all of that, but he had lost his partner. And I don't know how people navigate through something like that. But not only are great spouses and friends huge in our recoveries, but also having great doctors and therapists in our back pocket are really big to have. And I know you have a special relationship with Dr. Chris Carroll. Why don't you tell us about him and how he has sort of shaped part of your recovery?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, he's like, he's right behind Jen, right, in terms of the people who have just been there the whole time. And it's more than just, I guess, being a great therapist. It's being a great therapist, right? Who's also willing to spend the thousands of hours it takes to work on recovery and to never stop believing, right, the whole time through. So he's been, you know, a critical part of this, a huge part of this. He's a friend of the family now. He's not. It's not even like he's just a physical therapist, right? He's like Uncle Chris, right? Like the girls know him, they look up to him. They come to therapy and see him. He goofs around with them, right? He's just, his family is like becoming a part of our family. And so, forever indebted to him. As much as he tries to change jobs and get away from me, I'll follow him anywhere, right? So, uh,
Yeah.
he's been wonderful, and he's great to me, and like I said, he's wonderful to my family as well.
You got to tell him he's like a piece of gum stuck to the bottom of your shoe. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like the gum on his shoe, I think, but that's all
That's true. That's
right.
true. That's great. And so tell us now, Rise Through Resilience. Amazing. Where did the idea for the foundation come from and what is the main mission?
You want me to start?
Sure, go ahead.
Sure, whoever you could both say a little something about it. I want to hear more.
So, we've talked about how much work and energy we've both put in differently to recovery, right? And we know that this is what is required to pursue recovery from a chronic injury or a life altering injury like you both have had. And what we've seen along the way is what we were all told 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. That's pretty much where your recovery is going to stop. And that
Uh,
states were terrifying for us, but we also found that they weren't true, and we kind of, ignorance or not, we refused to believe them, because we felt like that factored in all the folks who didn't have access. And we think what dries up really at 6 months and a year is jobs, is insurance, is the ability to afford paying out of pocket for PT, because 20 sessions a year is not enough for to recover from to continue your recovery journey from a spinal cord injury. And the equipment that isn't covered is often unattainable from folks who don't have access. And along our journey, we have seen so many folks who had the same passion and the same desire, and maybe opportunity based on the injury, to make more strides toward recovery, but what they didn't have was access. And to us, that was unfair. That for folks to be denied access truly because they didn't have enough money to pay for it just seemed inequitable. So we started a foundation because we believe the more people who can see a Chris Carroll, the more people that can make greater strides in their recovery. So what we are doing now is we are helping folks fund continued neuro rehab, with licensed providers after insurance cuts out. We're helping fund equipment that is, re- I don't want to say required, but will help promote independence and recovery. And we're doing that through independent fundraising, working with medical device companies, biopharma companies, who all have a vested interest in the SCI community, to try and bridge that gap between what insurance is covering right now and what we know is medically necessary to promote recovery.
hmm. That's amazing. Matt, how about your 2 cents on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think she summed it up wonderfully. I think I think Rise Through Resilience kind of came to came to exist. It does exist because I was fortunate, right? I have the family support, I have the insurance, I have the access, I have the resources, and we have the resources, right? And so we see that year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 that we're still having recovery, right? And we want to make sure that others are afforded that opportunity. And if those resources run out, right, we want to be there to try and help them out, right?
How can my listeners find out more about the foundation and some of the opportunities that may exist?
So check out our website, our Instagram, our Facebook, all risethroughresilience.com, or the comparable handles on social media sites. And we are hosting small community fundraisers right now. We're trying to make sure that as much of the donor funds that as possible are getting directly fueled, fueled funded towards individuals who are looking to pursue their recovery. We started at the end of January, and we have since funded 7 people to help continue their recovery. And we are hoping we can't wait to see how many more we can. It's really a passion project for us.
Yeah.
How fulfilling is that to see folks that are benefiting from your foundation?
It's wonderful, right? It's a very emotional process, right? To go through their story and to hear what they've gone through, but then, you know, how excited they are to get back to therapy or to have this support. The responses are emotional, they're overwhelming. It's an emotional roller coaster, and but it is fulfilling, and we want to keep getting at it, getting.
Paying it forward, right? It's
Absolutely.
amazing paying it forward. Matt, one of the Jen mentioned about your website before, and I urge people to go on the website to learn more about the foundation. But what I found really inspiring is the video that features you, and it's sort of like the butterfly, getting through the metamorphosis, and where you start at one point and you see like all of your trials and tribulations in like a 3 or 4 minute video span. And so when you look back at that and you see all the progress that you've made, if you were to talk to a newly injured person about, what they're up against and what you've been through, what would you sort of tell somebody to right out of the gates?
I would tell them to not put a timeline on their recovery, right? I would tell them to live in the present, but keep working on progress and know that you can get better and work hard to get better. And getting better doesn't need to be walking; it just needs to be the goals that you have, right? So, um, really important that folks don't get caught. Obviously, the injury and everything is a but start slow and work with your family and friends and all the support that you have to put a plan together to get better.
I hear somebody else wants to chime in the background.
Yeah.
No worries. I have a 6-year-old canine companions for independent service dog here with me, and he's at my feet here, and he's being a good boy. If he would have heard the barking, he probably would have chimed in also. But the more the merrier. As we said, it takes a village, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. And what's his name or her name?
That's Odie.
Okay.
And it does. But honestly, Matt and the girls are such dog people. I love our dogs, but I'm not as crazy as they are. We brought, it was COVID. We brought the dog to the hospital to see Matt because of how much attached they both are to each other.
Of course. Of course. They're so important. I know Tracy, we spoke about Tracy Araka at the beginning, and her dog meant everything to her. So I told her, when you leave, when you get home, you got to take a video. And her husband took a video. Kevin sent it up, and it was the most amazing thing. I thought the dog's tail was going to fall off. She was wagging so hard. They miss us. They miss their loved ones, and so that's all part of it. And
Absolutely.
so I know we're going to wrap up here, but I have one last question. I usually ask all of my guests who've been injured, and it's an interesting story. It comes about. I was waiting for a doctor's appointment with a friend of mine. Believe it or not, a high school friend of mine had a similar injury to mine. He had a pretty severe spinal cord injury. So the two of us were waiting in the hallway to see our doctors, and I just leaned over and said, "Hey, Tommy, if I could snap my fingers right now and you would be completely able-bodied again, what do you think the first thing you would do would be?" And so while I looked over at him and the smoke was pouring out of his ears, trying to come up with an answer, there was a woman seated behind me, and I didn't even realize I had spoken so loud. She said, I would go in my garden and plant some flowers. And a guy next to me said, I'd go out in the garage and tinker with the cars that I used to love to do. And so there weren't podcasts back then, but I said, geez, if I ever have something like that, it'd be a pretty cool question, because I'm sure everybody would have a different answer. But if you do, Matt, or if I could, and you were, what do you think the first thing you would do would be if you were once again wholly intact?
Uh, so I think back to the first couple of weeks when I was injured, and was talking to Jen, and I said, don't worry, this will all be over soon, right? And when we're old and gray and walking down the boardwalk, we'll look back and go, God, that was crazy, right? I'd like to complete that. I'd like to take her for a walk on the boardwalk and say, wow, that was crazy.
Very,
Yeah, like
very New Jersey.
Twilight Zone, right?
Yeah.
Twilight Zone. Well, Jen and Matt Hellstern, I appreciate your time today. I'm glad that we were able to come together. And again, a tip of the hat to Tracy Iraka for putting us together, being able to not only hear your story, but to share it with my listeners. They will not only be inspired, but they will hopefully want to hop on the internet and check out the Rise Through Resilience Foundation, and hopefully will want to donate some money towards the cause. And some folks that are in need of help to get back to doing some more therapy can take advantage of that. And so thank you so much, not only for what you do for yourself and your family, but for the SCI community. It means a whole lot, I can tell you that.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Really
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having us, John.